There was a monk meditating by a river. And coming down the river, passing him by, was the plague. And the monk says to the plague, "Where are you going?" The plague says, "Well, I'm just going downriver to that other village. And I'm going to kill 100 people." And off it went. A week later, the monk was there by the river again meditating, and the plague came back. It's coming back up. And the monk said, "Hey, wait a minute, stop. You said to me, you told me that you were only going to kill 100 people. 1,100 people were killed by the plague downriver. What happened?" And the plague said, "Well, I only killed 100 people. The other 1,000 died from fear." Now, I know you probably heard, and you hear it in the news, and there's some confliction in the news, but you listen to the right people, you're hearing, and I know many ministers have been talking about it, and I have written about it in my little article I write every week in the Friday e-blast. But this whole virus going around, or similar to the previous ones that have gone around, some worse, some not so virulent. We have to remember that God, not germs, not a virus, is our source. And that fear comes from when we give that virus the power. Because the power and presence within us is what we use to protect ourselves, to change our DNA sometimes if we have to, in some dis-ease, whether it is of physicality or some other idea going on in our lives. Ourselves, our very environment, we change through the power that's within us, while being mindful of good hygiene. It's a combination. We fear for a lot of reasons, but a lot of times we fear because we forget this, and we forget to do this, or live by this. When we wash our hands properly, when we do all the hygiene things, I don't need to go through all the different ones. You can get that information anywhere. You can read it in kind of a fun way that I wrote it in my articles. I teach you a few songs in my articles that you can sing for the 20 seconds. There's very different songs. You can do Happy Birthday twice, but there's other more fun songs that you can sing for those 20 seconds. And that's important, of course. That's important. Most of us of any age have learned that since we were little. Wash your hands. Put an arm or something, not so much your hand, but an arm or something over your mouth if you're coughing or sneezing or whatever. That's what's going to protect us. And also staying consciously and knowing that Spirit is there with us. That we can put it out there, what is coming around us, what is in our experience. And I'm not just talking about the COVID-19. I'm talking about foresight in everything. See, when we make these declarations, when we decide, when we commune with the divine or God or Spirit or presence, whatever you want to call it, we are in the river of foresight. We are creating foresight. When we treat, when we do affirmative prayer, if you don't know what treatment is, it's prayer, but in an affirming way versus an asking way or a pleading way. When we treat, or when we do mindful meditation, or when we do many different kinds of spiritual practice, when we do, even when we write out our goals, we are having foresight. We are declaring by doing these practices what's going to happen in the next now. Now here's the definition of foresight: an act or the power of foreseeing, prescience. interesting thing about prescience, when you break that down, it's prescience. I love that. Another one is provident care. So prudence is foresight. So when we are washing our hands, when we are doing the proper hygiene things, when we are, not getting on a plane maybe, or not going to Italy, although it's very hard to get into Italy right now, but when we're not doing those certain things, or we're thinking twice about them, we are having prudence. It's an act of looking forward. It's a vision. Foresight is a vision. It's a premonition. It's a pre-notion. It's a clairvoyance of sorts. When we have foresight, as we stay in the revealing of it and the belief of it, we have clairvoyance of what's going to happen. We have forethought. We have perception. Our perception on life is a foresight of what our life is going to be in this now and the next nows. Now, if we are, as I was talking about last week, being myopic about things. Now, when I was talking about it last week, I was telling you that being myopic is being short-sighted. So we get really focused on the bills and the news and our problems and all the conditions that are in our way versus seeing the whole picture. Opening up to the periphery, opening up to the foresight, what's far away, the whole picture. But when we're myopic about not only our eyeballs, but our inside eyeballs, then we don't have foresight because we're all into the condition, all into the attitude that's now. Foresight creates and prevents hindsight. It prevents hindsight because when you have foresight, you don't get into the I shoulda, I coulda, because you know because you decide because you declare And so the hindsight really is, of course. That's your hindsight. When you're over here and you're thinking about what happened before, in hindsight, you can look and go, well, of course, because I had the foresight when I was back here of this being this way, of busting through, soaring and zooming in whatever facet of your life it is. Now, we create foresight by our choices, like Gary was talking about, our choices of food. We can either bring nourishment into our body, or we can deprive nourishment from our body, depending on the foods we eat. We can do that with the partners and the people we have around us. We either bring love into our lives, or we ignore the red flags that keep the non-love in our lives. Our jobs. Sometimes we see money only, and we take that job because it's such a great, but everyone there is a butthead, and I'm not happy. But boy, I'm making $300K, and, isn't that great? But I'm miserable. I had a friend who did that. I have a friend that actually lives in Palm Springs, and I went to college with her, and she decided, she was a fabulous performer, but she decided to not do that anymore, and she became an attorney. And not uncommon, either attorneys or ministers. It's not uncommon because, a lot of attorneys, especially because she wanted to be a trial attorney, there's a little performance in there going on. If any of you have been on the witness stand, you know what that means. So she started working for this big company, making tons of money, pushing papers. And she did that for a few years, and she's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm making a lot of money, but I'm not doing what I want to do. So she quit, went to a small firm. I'm not sure if she cut her income in half, but she got to go to trial. She got to be the kind of attorney she wanted to be, and that made her happy. And she did that for years and years, and then went on to consulting for juries and and then became a chef and decided I'm done with that, and became a chef and opened a restaurant. But she had foresight. She decided this is not the job for me anymore, because it's not the money that's the most important. That will come. Attitudes, environments. Are we starving our soul or feeding it? You come here to feed it. You sometimes go to work and it starves. You sometimes don't do the fun things that you like to do and for some reason don't do anymore, and you starve your soul. Addictions. Ignoring the condition versus turning away from it spiritually. Having foresight is when we feed our soul with this truth that we talk about here. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about having practical spirituality, and you know, and I'm going to do that in this talk too. I throw in a few practical things, but like I said a few weeks ago, and came to me again this week, you know, spirituality is practical spirituality. Being spiritual, doing this, doing these things, communing with spirit, whatever you want to call it. If you don't like the word God, who cares? God doesn't care. Call it what you want. But when you commune with that, you're doing a practical thing. Because if you've ever been here, and I know you all have, you know how powerful you are. You know what kind of foresight shows up in your life when you open yourself up beyond the logic and the intellect to what's going on in this brain here and this brain here, which is intuition, imagination, that sort of thing. Treatment is also a form of proofreading. Now, I'm bringing that up because it's National Proofreading Day. Who knew? Who cared? National Proofreading Day. So I have a couple of examples about National Proofreading Day. There was, in 1631, there was a version of the King James Bible that became known as the Wicked Bible because somebody left the word "not" out in the phrase, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." Air Canada in 2005, so this is kind of recent, in 2005, their luggage tags, the ones you get at the counter, said on them, "This bag has been X-rated at point of origin." I'd like to get into some of that luggage. And then there was an edition of Shakespeare, a full edition of complete Shakespeare plays. And in Hamlet, somebody dropped the word "not" into "be" or "not to be." So it was just "to be" or "to be." Now, I found that very funny, but like some of you might be thinking, I thought, wait a minute. So I'll be doing a talk on that, "to be" or "to be," because that was too much for me. I was just like, it's that he's talking about not life versus death, but life versus living. If you read, and Bonnie, I hope you're here for that, because I'm going to go through the whole monologue, which is not that long, and it's very interesting. Anyway, we'll do that talk later. So here's some tips for proofreading that I found, and as I was reading, I was like, wait a minute, these aren't just tips for proofreading. This is tips for affirmative prayer. This is tips for foresight into our next now. One of the first ones, there's 7 of them. Walk away, it says. Proofread after an article, important email, or chapter has time to set, and you read it with fresh eyes, right? Anybody ever done that? Especially people who write a lot of things, or especially if you're really angry. Yeah. You want to, like the voicemail, you want to leave the voicemail, but not on the phone. Then later leave that voicemail so you can wait a bit. But and I've talked about this before, if you're not feeling the prayer, this is a way of proofreading. You ever done that? You ever gone into prayer and gone, what the hell am I talking about? I don't feel this. I don't know what I'm saying. The words aren't coming out. I'm a failure. This sucks. Stop and start over. Who cares? You think the law's going, don't have the right words. You know, that doesn't happen. Go back and start again. Or if you don't feel then treat about feeling it. I had a friend one time ask me about treating for a certain thing, and she was telling me I've been treating for this to happen and this to happen, and she says I'm not into the how. I'm not trying to say and this person will do this and that person will do that and blah blah blah. I'm just treating for knowing that this XYZ what it was she wanted. She decided to declare, and I said, well, it sounds like to me what you need to do is to treat for patience and treat for knowing that your treatments are powerful, because that's what's in the way, because that's all I'm hearing. I'm hearing you've done the work, but you're in your own way. So come back to it. Come back and start again. If it's a few minutes later or an hour later, or if you need to treat first for centering yourself, do that. Second one, do not disturb. It says remove all distractions, including phones, other deadlines, traffic noise, and interruptions. That's a way to do your proofreading, is you need quiet so you can concentrate, so you can focus. In treatment, in prayer work, you want to immerse yourself in the quiet to listen and commune. Now, we have learned a lot in doing the guided meditations here, because sometimes the sound makes a weird crack, or a truck goes by, and some of the chaos of the world kind of inches in. And I learned when I did a meditation class, they taught us in this particular modality of meditation, it's not about the silence around you, it's about the silence within you. And doing meditation, of course, doing meditation in the middle of the woods with perfect weather and all that kind of stuff, or having some lovely music, or bowls singing to you, of course, is very helpful. But when we learn to meditate in the chaos, within the chaos, and turn it off, then our foresight steps in, and that's a form of proofreading. Turn off the autocorrect. I heard somebody was talking about autocorrect right now. Autocorrect, of course, gets in the way. Now, in treatment work, in prayer work, when we talk about autocorrect, we get taught these ways to say something. Now, in the science of mind type of prayer, the affirmative prayer, there's the 5 steps, and I'm not going to go through the 5 steps, but people learn these steps, and when they learn them, they learn like 2 or 3 phrases for each step, especially the first 2, and then you get stuck in it, and it becomes like blah, 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 blah. You're saying those words, you're saying the correct words, but they start to lose their meaning. Turn off that autocorrect. Say whatever you want. However you commune, however you reveal the divine, whatever the words are, the divine knows. The divine knows your heart. The words are powerful. I'm not taking away the power of the words, but the power comes through from your heart into your head, out of your mouth, or into the universe through your head if you don't actually speak the treatment. Go ahead and do that. Say it aloud. That's a way to help proofreading. Say it aloud to see if it makes sense. Sometimes when you hear yourself, you go, whoa, that sentence doesn't make sense. Wow, why didn't I notice that when I was reading it? Because sometimes you have to hear it. Same way with prayer. Say it out loud. You don't have to say it out loud, but sometimes when you say it out loud, there's a different power to it. Because now, not only are you thinking it, not only are you allowing Spirit to speak through you, not only are you doing all the declaration and all that mental work, but it's bouncing back to you too. And you're hearing it. as well as you live it more in a way, in an odd way. You're drenched in it. Print it. So some people say instead of looking at it in the book, print it out in a different way. Change the font, change the size of the font, things like that. That's for proofreading. But if you're proofreading your foresight, your affirmative prayer, write it out. Some people write out their prayers. Write it out. Journal it. It's probably the best way to do it, because then it's something you might want to keep. Or here's another way. It's written right here, or at least one of your prayers. I mean, these are pretty full. You could use them as a spiritual mind treatment. I don't know about the 5 steps, but you know what? You don't have to do the 5 steps to declare what you want in your life. It's just a nice way to make it easy for you. There are principles to the steps, but you can commune with the divine without saying, I know that there's one mind and I connect myself with that one mind right now. Boom, you're there. But you can say it in a different way. You can say it and know it, even though you don't say those specific type words. Read it backwards. That's another thing with the whole 5 steps thing. Do it out of order. The order, I know the order seems, it is logical. The order is logical. Go ahead and do it out of order. Start with gratitude. Start with and so it is. God is here right now, and I know that this divine power is through the law going to do X, Y, Z in my life, and I am bringing this, that, and the other in my life, and such, so that peace and love and grace, etc., shows up right here and now, because I am part of that one mind and that one power, and I'm grateful for it. And I'll see you later, because I got to start doing the action that I know the law is going to bring, so I need to be ready in physicality. That's it. You just did an affirmative prayer. You just did a treatment. You just actually did all 5 steps, just not in order. I would presume you want to do it in order when you're first learning how to do this. But just like anything that has a template, just like writing a screenplay or writing a play, you want to use the template on the 3-act or 5-act, or depending on what you're writing, or even in a novel, the structure that we know usually works, and that's how you learn it. And then once you learn that, then you can do it a little bit like this, or a little bit like that. Last one, fresh eyes. Sometimes the condition is there so much, we're like a whirling dervish. So then you get yourself to a practitioner and or a minister. And in some cases, you might want to go to a therapist as well, or a hypnotherapist, to get yourself centered, to get yourself open and ready to reveal to yourself what needs to be said, thought, and done in your life. And that's okay. And I do it too. And I know these guys do it too that are ministers, or practitioners, or therapists, or counselors. I know they go too, because there's nothing wrong with it. Marie Curie. So I want to talk about a couple of women before I close, because is it today? I think today is International Women's Day. Yes. And I know it's, we also talked about, and we'll be doing this every week, which is part of the Divine Feminine idea of this month as well. It's Women's History Month. So each week I've been making sure if I don't talk about a specific female, that I bring in the Divine Feminine, or that I bring in quotations from smart women, which 99% of them are. And the other 0.9 are for some reason standing behind a man. So I don't know why they do that anymore. Just kidding. Just kidding. Don't send me messengers about that. Okay, so Marie Curie. She said, "Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more, so that we may fear less." Madame Curie was the first woman in Europe to earn a doctorate in physics and first female professor at the France Sorbonne University. Yes. She lived in the late 1800s, She was born and lived part of her life in the late 1800s. She died in 1934. So these are things, this is something she did and said before 1934, my friends. She discovered the elements of polonium and radium, which I know you all know all the elements on the table of elements, and that polonium, I think, I don't know, I'm just joking. It's 43, I don't know. She's the only person to win 2 Nobel Prizes, one in physics and one in chemistry. Her notebooks are stored in lead-lined boxes because even after almost 100 years, they are still radioactive. And scientists have predicted that they won't be able to open those things for 1,500 more years.
Wow.
Her handwritten notes. But because of her, and because of her research, we get to see all kinds of things that are going on in our bodies. She wrote that a great discovery does not issue from a scientist's brain ready-made. It is the fruit of an accumulation of preliminary work. That's foresight. She's talking about foresight. All of our preliminary work of bringing XYZ experience into our life is what we do in meditation, in prayer, in whatever spiritual practice it is, in writing down our goals even. We write down our goals and we go, Or if you do that one thing, does anybody know about the one thing? The one thing was created by Keller of Keller Williams Realty, and it says, the idea is, and of course the book gets more into it, but the basic idea is, what is the one thing I can do today, right here, right now, first thing, that's going to make the rest of my day easy? And you do that first. That's a form of foresight. What is the most important thing I need to do today that makes the rest of the day work? One more thing from Madame Curie. One never notices what has been done. One can only see what remains to be done. That, again, is foresight. What remains to be done in your life? Now you have the foresight of what you need to do mentally, in your heart, and in your gut through intuition and imagination, in your spiritual practice, to experience that in the next now. I'm trying to not use the word future, but in the next now. So we need logic, we need education, we need intelligence, we need imagination, insight, and intuition. I want to talk about Katherine Johnson. She just died recently. She was 100 years old. She had that kind of foresight. She was the mathematician, you probably, if you saw the movie Hidden Figures, she was one of the characters, if not one of the main characters in there. Like I said, she just died. Her calculations proved critical to the success of not only the Apollo moon landing program, but the space shuttle program and all programs following that. She had the foresight using mathematics. And mathematics in itself is foresight, because you pretty much start with just a concept and you build it because you know the end. You know where you want to go. You know where you're starting, and you know where you want to go. Now, what's in the middle takes work. What's in the middle for us, the universe does a lot of the work, and then we do a lot of work in the mental and physical form, but we also get informed by the work that the universe is doing, by our foresight of declaring that for our future. Foresight is scientific and part of a truth-driven faith. Now I want to read for you something from the last one, and I want to talk about Rosalind Franklin is her name. She said, "Science and everyday life cannot and should not be separated. Faith is essential to success in life, a success of any sort, really. All that is necessary for faith is the belief that by doing our best we shall come nearer to success, and that success in our aims, the improvement of the lot of mankind, present, future, is worth attaining." Now she's best known, you may not know her, she is best known for her work in X-rays, similar to Madame Curie. But what she did was this X-ray diffraction image of DNA. She took the picture of a thing called Photo 51, while she was working at King's College in London. And one of her cohorts took this picture that she had taken, and they were studying DNA. This was not just some accident, they were working on it. One of her colleagues took this picture and presented it to James Watson and Francis Crick and Maurice Wilkins, who then became famous and won the Nobel Prize for discovering the DNA in the beginnings of the human genome and the genome of all living things. How the DNA works, how the shape is. That picture that she made in working on DNA made this happen. And she's not usually recognized, or she wasn't recognized, she is now, but she wasn't recognized. But she had the foresight to know that X-rays could reveal that X-rays was revealing the condition of how DNA works, was revealing the condition, and we can use X-rays to reveal our condition of our fears, of our past, of our even our DNA. Read Bruce Lipton. Read Dr. Joe, the chiropractor who's written the book Supernatural. Read those. These are scientists, and Greg Braden as well. He's a geologist. He's a scientist, and of course Ernest Holmes, who wasn't a scientist per se as far as training, but he brought science and spirituality together. And then you read Bruce Lipton especially, and you can see how spirituality and the power in spirituality and science show that DNA and cells can be affected by our beliefs, our foresight, our prayers, our treatments. The divine feminine traits of intuition and imagination empower our foresight to work. So I'm asking us all to take the route that is scientific, that is mathematical, and that is spiritual, and that is powered by divine truth. Having foresight, knowing what's going to happen next, deciding, declaring what's going to happen next in our lives. Maybe not 3 seconds from now, maybe not even a day or two, or even a month from now. But a soon now, we get to declare. We get to declare it by practicing our foresight every single day. Thank you so much. Namaste.